Hello, 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 and welcome to my podcast. Welcome to Let's Talk with Carl E. Long, and I am your boy, Carl E. Long, coming to you from the 214. And hey, guys, let's get right into what America is talking about. First, let's just start and just say we are all in prayer on the crash that happened in the Washington, D.C. area in the Potomac River, the American Airlines crash, that they are now desperately still looking for survivors. And this country is mourning this horrendous. And God, it's just so sad that this happened. And I just don't know what else to say about it. It's something that has happened. Airline crashes don't happen that often, but when they do, they can be devastating to us as a people. And we, as an Americans, we tend to pull together when all this kind of things happen. And that's what I love about the American spirit. We come together, always. Most of us, except for your president, Donald Trump. You know, when you look to a president, we look to someone that is going to be with us in times of sorrow and tragedy and devastation. You know, there's been so many times that a president has had to come out and just speak and calm the American people. That's just what they do. They're our leader. We look to them for that kind of support. No matter if they're Republican or Democrat, when they, in times of tragedy and famine and disaster, we look to our president. What is he going to say to calm us down, to let us know that we are safe? All right? So we expected that from Donald Trump. I thought that the human side of him would come out in something like this, but it didn't. It didn't. So I just want to let you hear what happened at the press conference right after the crash, and Donald Trump came and spoke to the reporters in the White House briefing room, and this is what he said to Caitlin Collins. Take a listen.
The member even yet know the names of the 67 people who were killed, and you are blaming Democrats and DEI policies and air traffic control and seemingly the member of the U.S. military who was flying that Black Hawk helicopter. Don't you think you're getting ahead of the investigation right now?
No, I don't think so at all. I don't think with the names of the people, you mean the names of the people that are on the plane? You think that's going to make a difference?
Does it comfort their families?
They
to
are
hear you
a group of
blaming
people
DEI
that have
policies?
lost their lives. If you want a list of the names, we can give you that. We'll be giving that very soon. We're in coordination with American Airlines. We're in coordination very strongly, obviously, with the military. But I think that's not a very smart question.
But are you
I'm
blaming-
surprised coming from
Are
you.
you blaming?
I'm trying to figure out how you can come to the conclusion right now that diversity had something to do with this crash.
Because I have common sense, okay? And unfortunately, a lot of people don't.
As the president came out here and was casting blame, one thing I noted was that there are still bodies being pulled from the water of the Potomac right now. We know from officials that we heard from earlier that rescue and that recovery operation is very much still underway in some really difficult conditions that first responders were dealing with last night.
So this is what he came out with. Here they are still digging and diving and looking for bodies of survivors. And he's blaming Biden, Obama, DEI, the whole shebang. Just nothing. I mean, he's just void of any human compassion whatsoever. You know, every now and then you might see a twinkle of it, but I didn't see it. And it frankly was just embarrassing to our country. And it just really put a damper on our country and having a compassionate leader. That's over, guys. I thought the first time he was bad. This time he is just so much more worse than he ever was. And then I was listening to Smirkanish. I know Smirkanish is a CNN commentator, has his own show. He was speaking, and he's kind of smart. And he just said that he wanted to change the news cycle. All right, the news cycle is this. He's got confirmations going on over there. Trump likes to put a lot of stuff. I mean, this man is smart. He may sound like he's dumb, but he's smart when it comes to plotting and things of that nature. He's very good at that. So he's got these very controversial cabinet picks over at the same time this is going on. So in order to get them off of those three, which is really big news, and we'll talk about that in a minute, he comes out and he says this DEI thing. The cause is DEI. DEI. So, of course, the news people, they're going to take that like a bone, which they did. So now you got these two big news stories going on. The confirmation's over there, and then the American people are missing what is going on and what are these guys saying, because we're talking so much about the crash, so much about his DEI, that here we have it. And it's really weird that when they came out that J.D. Vance and the new transportation director, I don't know any of their names yet, the new ones hardly, that they all came out with this DEI thing. So it's like, is there something that they know that we don't know? Have they already asked? They probably asked, what were the race of the pilots? Because if it turned out to be a woman or a person of color, then they're going to blame DEI on it. This is so terrible, guys, that we have a president that is doing this kind of thing to the American people. It's an embarrassment. It is an embarrassment, but Trump knows how to control the news cycle, guys, and he is a master at it. So you're going to have to just know when things go awry. This guy, he's got a lot of people in his ear. And trust me, they're meeting and they're plotting. This is where Republicans are good. They're not good at governing, but they're good at masking the truth and making it look like it's what the American people want or what's happening, and when it's really not. So he's had to pull back some things already, and he's going to continue to do stuff. He's getting ready to do these tariffs. So, guys, we got to just keep the narrative going. So while the crash is going on and we're trying to find out what really happened and everything that's still going on in the background, the cabinet confirmations are still in effect. Yes, it is still in effect. So we have got to stay on our game and know what's going on. So we have these cabinet nominees that are the most controversial of all of them. And that would be Kash Patel, Tulsi Gabbard, and Robert Kennedy Jr. These are three, I think, of the most important cabinet positions, because one is our FBI service. All this is about safety with this. And the other one is our essential intelligence. And the other one is our health and wellness, fighting disease. And you got three of the most controversial nominees ever that are going up for these positions. And guys, trust me if I tell you that they're in Trump's camp, because they all have something that he needs. And it's going to be something that's not for the American people. It's going to satisfy Trump's needs. And trust me, and you'll know why as we talk about it. So let's just talk about the first one here, Robert Kennedy Jr. I'm going to go over and let you listen to the confirmation hearings of all three of these guys, and then you'll know what I'm talking about. We're going to start with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Let's go to him first.
I think that, Mr. Chairman, we are truly through the looking glass this morning here in the U.S. Senate, and this committee is being asked to fulfill a really important responsibility, which is to decide whether to confirm Mr. Kennedy to one of the most important health care jobs in America. And the reason I think it's so important is for many of the reasons you said in your opening statement, which is that we live in the richest country in the world, and we have some of the worst health outcomes of any industrialized country in the world. We live in the richest country in the world, and we have some of the lowest life expectancy rates of anybody in the industrialized world. I was a school superintendent before I was in this job, Mr. Chairman, and I can tell you that Mr. Kennedy's right, that when I look at the kids in the Denver public schools, if we don't change the way we eat in this country, 40% of them are going to suffer adult diabetes as a result of their diet. And we're, as I said, spending more than any other country in the world, and our families, every single person's constituents in this Senate, are facing chronic shortages when it comes to health care. My friend from Texas, Senator Cornyn, has been a champion on mental health care. We have an epidemic, as he knows, across this country in mental health care, partly because of what the massive social media platforms that were sitting behind the President of the United States have inflicted on our children for their profit in the last decade or so. So we have no shortage of challenges to confront, and I even agree with some of the diagnosis of Mr. Kennedy. What is so disturbing to me is that out of 330 million Americans, we're being asked to put somebody in this job who has spent 50 years of his life not honoring the tradition that he talked about at the beginning of this conversation, but peddling in half-truths, peddling in false statements, peddling in theories that, create doubt about whether or not things that we know are safe are unsafe. Not that every vaccine in America is unsafe, not that you can't possibly have an adverse reaction, but that parents and children in my old school district and school districts all over this country would be better off not getting vaccinated than getting vaccinated.
So let me just stop right there. So, as you know, Robert F. Kennedy, he's known for being an anti-vaxxer. So what these confirmations are happening, what they are doing to satisfy getting the votes, they're going before the American people and they're basically just lying and saying that I am not going to do that. Although there is documents, there are videos, there are books and everything where he's been so anti-vax, it's ridiculous. He's also in the pockets of a lot of people. He's making money off of this stuff as well. But he's going to stand there and he's going to tell you that that is not true, even though it's documented everywhere, just so that the voting Senate has some way of just justifying saying that he said that he's not going to do it. We have to take him at his word. This is the strategy. Let's continue.
Unlike his own children who were vaccinated, unlike the people he invited to his house in Los Angeles for their party who were vaccinated, for everybody else, it's about peddling these half-truths. And he says it with such conviction that you want to believe him. And Mr. Kennedy, I just have there are many, many things in the record, but I hope that you could answer these questions, yes or no. I've tried to ask these in a manner that's faithful to what you actually said, because I didn't want to have a debate about whether you actually said them. So I'm asking you, yes or no, Mr. Kennedy. Did you say that COVID-19 was a genetically engineered bioweapon that targets black and white people, but spared Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese people?
I didn't say it was deliberately targeted. I just quoted an NIH-funded and NIH published study.
Did you say that it targets black and white people but spared Ashkenazi Jews?
I quoted a study, Your Honor. I quoted an NIH study that showed that.
I'll take that as a yes. I have to move on, Mr. I have to move on. Did you say that Lyme disease is highly likely a materially engineered bioweapon? I made sure I put in the highly likely. Did you say Lyme disease is a highly likely militarily engineered bioweapon?
I probably did say that.
Did you say that?
And that's what the developer of Lyme
I want all of
disease
our
said.
colleagues to hear it, Mr. Kennedy. I want them to hear it. You said yes. Did you say that exposure to pesticides causes children to become transgender?
No, I never said that.
Okay, I have the record that I'll give to the chairman, and he can make his judgment about what you said. Did you write in your book, and it's undeniable, that African AIDS is an entirely different disease from Western AIDS? Yes or no, Mr. Kennedy?
I'm not sure if I made that.
Okay, I'll give it to the chairman, Mr. Kennedy. And my final question, did you say on a podcast, and I quote, I wouldn't leave abortion, to the states. My belief is we should leave it to the woman. We shouldn't have the government involved, even if it's full term. Did you say that, Mr. Kennedy?
Senator, I believe that every abortion is a tragedy.
Did you say it, Mr. Kennedy? This matters. It doesn't matter what you come here and say that isn't true, that's not reflective of what you really believe, that you haven't said over decade after decade after decade, because unlike other jobs we're confirming around this place, this is a job where it is life and death for the kids that I used to work for in the Denver public schools and for families all over this country that are suffering from living in the richest country of the world that can't deliver basic health care and basic mental health care to them. It's too important for the games that you're playing.
So there you have it, guys. So, all right. So, you see what I mean there, guys? You see what I mean? That is what I'm talking about. See, that's what I'm talking about. That was Robert F. Kennedy. And you heard all the things that he said about going in vaccines and what he believes. These are some whack jobs, and they're coming into some of the most important positions for our government. But why does Donald Trump want him? It's mainly because the whole COVID thing. You remember the whole COVID thing? And Donald Trump didn't do well. So here's someone that's in his corner. He wants to put him in there. He's a loyalist. He's backing the whole anti-COVID thing, which every person on the right did. So I guess that's why. I don't know why he would want this guy in that position. He did a lot for him on the campaign trail. He gave him his vote, so he owed him this. So it could be that too. But for the most part, Donald Trump has called him a whack job himself. And then here he is, nominated for his cabinet. So let's go back over now and let's go to Tulsi Gabbard. Yes, let's go to Tulsi Gabbard.
Was Edward Snowden a traitor to the United States of America?
Senator, I will also repeat my answer. He broke the law.
You said earlier that you were offended by a question that my colleague from Kansas asked, which I think was his duty as somebody on this committee to fulfill his responsibility to advise and consent. We are not here to be a rubber stamp for the President of the United States. So let me ask you again, do you believe, as the chairman of this committee believes, as the vast majority of members of our intelligence agencies believe, that Edward Snowden was a traitor to the United States of America?
Senator, if confirmed as Director of National Intelligence, I will work with you to make sure that there is not another Snowden-like leak.
Media. It's not a moment to propagate theories, conspiracy theories, or attacks on journalism in the United States. This is when you need to answer the questions of the people whose votes you're asking for to be confirmed as the chief intelligence officer of this nation. As my colleague said, this is not about you. It's about the people that serve the intelligence agencies of the United States. Is Edward Snowden a traitor to the United States of America? That is not a hard question to answer when the stakes are this high.
Senator, as someone who has
your
served
answer,
in
yes
uniform,
or no, is Edward Snowden a traitor to the United States of America?
as someone who has
I'll go on
worn
to
our
my
uniform
questions.
in combat, I understand how critical our national security
Apparently
is.
you don't.
Well, there you go. Tulsi Gabbard. Yes, Tulsi Gabbard. And let's just talk about that one. Oh, man, this is really scary, guys. This is really scary about it. So the question that was asked, and that was the senator from Colorado, was, do you think Edward Snowden is, if he should be, if he is a threat to America? So if you don't know who Edward Snowden is, I will show you a photo of Edward Snowden. And if you want to watch the movie about it, I had to go and look him up to understand all about what's going on here. He is a fugitive from justice. He is a hacker. He's a spy, so to speak. Not a real spy, but he did some things that really messed with us because he was against the Espionage Act. So let me just tell you, who is Edward Snowden? We'll just talk about it here. That's the photo of him right there. So, who is Edward Snowden? Edward Snowden is a former National Security Agency NSA contractor who became widely known in 2013 after leaking classified documents that reveal the extent of U.S. government surveillance programs. His disclosures expose how the NSA was collecting vast amounts of data on both U.S. citizens and foreign individuals, often without warrants, through programs like PRISM and Upstream. So, yes, so he worked for the federal government, and he was pretty much a whistleblower about things, and he's very controversial, all right? So let's see. So what did he do? So, the U.S. government accuses Snowden of violating multiple laws, particularly under the Espionage Act of 1917 for leaking classified intelligence. His actions were considered a major national security breach. The specific charges against him include theft of government property for unlawfully taking and distributing classified NSA documents, unauthorized communication of national defense information. This is a violation under the Espionage Act, and willful communication of classified intelligence to unauthorized persons, another Espionage Act violation. These are laws. He broke some laws. He broke the law. Now, some people consider him to be a whistleblower. A whistleblower and a spy are two different things. A whistleblower is someone that comes out and tells the truth about something going on in government, and they do it in a secret motion so that they can save our democracy. Okay? So it's split on what people believe in him. So why did some see him as a whistleblower? Snowden's supporters argue that he exposed unconstitutional mass surveillance of U.S. citizens without their knowledge. His leaks led to major reforms in the U.S. surveillance laws, such as the USA Freedom Law 2015, which curtails some NSA data collection practices. All right. He acted in the public interest, revealing government outreach rather than aiding a foreign enemy. However, the U.S. government maintains that his actions were illegal and he remains a fugitive. He still broke the law. Regardless of what he thought he was doing, he still broke the law. And that's what the U.S. government stands on him. He's a fugitive from justice. Okay. So where is Snowden now? All right. So Mr. Snowden, he fled to Hong Kong in 2013 before traveling to Russia, where he was granted asylum. In 2022, he was granted Russian citizenship by President Vladimir Putin, making extradition to the U.S. highly unlikely. So he remains one of the most polarizing figures in recent U.S. history. To some of us, he's a traitor, and to jeopardize national security. And to others, he's a whistleblower who exposed unconstitutional surveillance and faces trial in the U.S. and remains uncertain. So now, guys, he's in Russia, and we can't get him because there's no extradition from Russia. He's over there with Putin. Putin knows that what he did to America. Therefore, he is over there safe and a Russian citizen. He can't come back because of this. He was trying to go to another country, but ended up in Russia, and it wasn't where he wanted to go, but that's where he ended up. So here's where Tulsi Gabbard comes in. Tulsi Gabbard, the question they kept asking her was, do you think that he's guilty and is a criminal? Because her job as to be the Central Intelligence Director is to uphold the law and secrets of the Central Intelligence Agency, and she wouldn't answer the question. So if she's going to be the director of this such agency, she's got to have an opinion. She's got to tell the truth, and she wouldn't do it, which is mainly the reason why Trump wants her as well. God, this is crazy, guys. So here's what the Espionage Act is. Espionage Act amendments refers to various changes made to the Espionage Act of 1917, a U.S. law that criminalizes the unauthorized disclosure of national defense information. Over time, Congress has amended the act to expand its scope, increase penalties, and address modern concerns like whistleblowing and digital leaks. So that is what the Espionage Act is. And then this is some of the things that why I think that Trump is so into Tulsi Gabbard. All right, 2024, as President Trump prepared for his second term, several of his associates advocated for Snowden's pardon. Notably, figures like Representative Tulsi Gabbard, nominated for the Director of Intelligence, and Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the expected Health and Human Services, have expressed support for clemency as well as Vice President J.D. Vance. They were also sympathetic to him. All right, you have to look at this both ways. When I looked at the movie, I was kind of conflicted myself because here we have the NSA, the National Security Association, who is surveying all of these suspected bomb people and people from the Middle East that are over here, suspected bombers and mass shooters and whatever. But the fact of the matter is that they had access to everything, your phone records, and a lot of it was, even though they were following a suspected criminal, if they came in contact with maybe you or someone else, you were part of that investigation and all of your stuff was out there. So they were seeing everything, had every phone record. So this guy found out that the government was doing that. And so what he did was he leaked the information. But he was an employee there. And regardless of what he thought the information was, he became a whistleblower and he fled and the whole bit. Now, me personally, if I know that the Central Intelligence Agency is out there and they're looking for mass bombers or anybody else of that nature, it feels like it makes it a lot more safe because they're able to follow them. But now, having it both ways, you have to think about it. So I just want to put it in perspective. This is the reason why every time Trump does something, there is a reason behind it. And this is his reason right here. Because anything that has to do with surveillance, can you imagine? Donald Trump doesn't want anybody knowing what he's doing. That's because he's doing crooked stuff. So that's why he's anti-FBI. He's anti-Central Intelligence. He's anti-anything that's in his business, pretty much. And the federal government is one thing that he's trying to do, really get rid of all of those agencies to a point where he can control them. And the president makes all these rules. So you see what I'm saying? So that is why he has this going on with Tulsi Gabbard. Okay? Makes sense? So that's why he wants her. Now let's go back over here and we're going to talk about Kash Patel. Kash Patel. He's up for FBI director. Yes, dear Kash Patel. Let's go with this one here.
I have always rejected any violence against law enforcement, and I have, including in that group, specifically addressed any violence against law enforcement on January 6th, and I do not agree with the commutation of any sentence of any individual who committed violence against law enforcement.
So do you think that America is safer because these 1,600 people have been given an opportunity to come out of serving their sentences and live in our communities again?
Senator, I have not looked at all 1,600 individual cases. I have always advocated for imprisoning those that cause harm to our law enforcement and civilian communities.
Did you post on your personal social media account in May of 2024, January 6th, never an insurrection, cowards in uniforms exposed. They broke the chain of command.
I believe you're referencing a post that was shown in part earlier. I don't have it in front of me.
You posted it, and it was on your account, and we will again put that out there once more.
Any accusations leveled against me that I would somehow put political bias before the Constitution are grotesquely unfair, and I will have you reminded that I have been endorsed by over 300,000 law enforcement officers to become the next director of the FBI. Let's ask them.
Donald Trump has never acknowledged that he lost in 2020, and he invited people to come to the Capitol on January 6th to stop the steal. And after that happened, police officers died. People were injured. Can you say the words, Joe Biden won the 2020 election?
Joe Biden was the president of the United States.
It's so funny. They cannot say it. They will not say it because Donald Trump will come and he will expose them and they will be banished forever. They will not say it. They have a way of saying it. They just say he was the president, but they're not going to say he won the election. Those words will never come out of their mouths. Watch this.
You understand this. There's a difference. I can say the words, Donald Trump won. I don't like to say it, but I must say it. And you cannot say that Joe Biden won the election.
What I can say is the same for both of them, Senator. Both of their elections were certified, and they are both, one was and one now is president.
Okay. The reason I have some concerns about that, my colleagues on the Republican side, is that whoever is the FBI director, and I suspect it will be Mr. Patel, has a boss. And he has strong points of view. He said Vice President Harris was a criminal and should be prosecuted. Is that a prosecution you would initiate?
There is no prosecution or that the FBI will ever initiate because the FBI will only do investigations, and those will only be open where there's a factual and constitutional basis to do so.
Now this guy has said it. He's on record to saying it. He's on video saying it. And then he gets up in front of here and he just lies. How do they get away with this stuff? This is what I'm telling you guys. You got to watch what's going on. I mean, this guy is the worst conspiracy theorist ever. Right here. And he's standing here and he's going to lie his way right into becoming the FBI director.
Your boss has said that General Milley, who served us with great distinction, I happen to have great admiration for, should be tried for treason. Do you agree with that?
Senator, everybody's entitled to their opinion. The only thing that matters at the FBI is whether the law is followed.
Okay, I know everybody's entitled to their opinion. I'm asking you.
So this guy goes on to say he's going to give them all the right words, but he does not believe it. He said everything opposite. This is what I'm talking about, guys. This is what I'm talking about. They're standing there and just telling us lies in front of Congress. Now, let me show you what Kash Patel has said. Let's just show you what he has said. Criticism of FBI and Justice Department. This is what he said. In his book, Government Gangsters, Allegations. In his book, Government Gangsters, The Deep State, Truth, The Battle of Democracy, Patel accuses senior officials in the FBI and Justice Department of corruption, referring to them as government gangsters. Okay, that's one thing. And he calls for the prosecution of journalists. During the Senate confirmation hearing, Patel was asked the question whether he advocated for prosecuting journalists and dismantling the FBI headquarters. He said all this stuff. It's in black and white. And he gets up there and goes, I was like, does he answer the question? He diverts the question. Whenever they've said something, they just divert the question. That's how it works here. That's how it works with these nominees, guys. So that's Mr. Kash Patel. So I was showing you all of this just to show you that this is a farce. Everything that Trump is doing, everybody that he's picking, are all reasons for him to get around him, and everything is going to compliment him. Did you see anything in there about the American people that any of them I don't think so. He doesn't care, guys. We have got to keep Trump on watch. You cannot let your guards down. You must listen to these confirmations, and unfortunately, they're probably going to all three get confirmed. I don't know. We may have a few Republicans are kind of going strong on Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I don't know if he might not get in there, but the other two, I don't know. And this is what we're going to have to deal with. These are very dangerous positions when they're putting very dangerous people in them. So, this is getting to be very hard to do and even talk about, because as you watch it unfold, and the crash and everything. Do y'all know that Trump has he had let go a lot of the same airline, the FAA employees? Did y'all know that? There were a lot of people that weren't in place. Not blaming the crash on him by no means, but the same thing happened to Ronald Reagan back in the day when the air traffic controllers were on strike. He fired all the people on strike, and like 11,000 people fired, and they could not work in the government again. And they didn't win at all because the union never came forth. They were asking for union pay and all kinds of stuff like this, and it didn't happen. And then shortly after that, while they were putting all these different people, supervisors and everybody they can to fill these positions, so there were not any professionals really in those positions after he fired everybody. And that's when the other crash of the Potomac happened, back in 1980, I believe. I can't remember the year. And nobody stood there and accused Ronald Reagan of doing anything, but that was partly his fault. That plane crashed in the Potomac. I remember that crash when all the ice and everything happened. So I'm just telling you, this thing is getting real, and we've got to stay on top of Donald Trump and understand that, man, Trump watch. That's what I call it. I'm going to stay there with him until I can understand what's going on, but know and believe that he's going to try to control the narrative of what goes out into the news cycle. And our good old mainstream news are going to take the bait and just do it. That's how you got the election won. All right. So I think I'm tired with this subject because this subject is very draining today. So I'm just going to move on and say thank you so much for joining me for this podcast. And guys, keep your eyes out. You have a voice. You have congressmen you can call. Don't sit back and do nothing. Until we meet again, have a wonderful day. Bye.